Welcome back to Positive Economics. Today we want to go into an economy, what an economy is, the participants of an economy and different economy systems that each country use. So we're going to start with what an economy is. What is an economy? An economy simply means a system that is trying to solve the basic economic problem. And in the previous class, we talked about the basic economic problem, which is scarcity. So a system that is trying to solve scarcity through allocation of resources is called an economy. So I'm going to read further. Economic resources are scarce, while human ones are infinite. An economy is a system set to interrelate an organized set of interrelated ideas or principles that try to solve this basic economic problem. So we already know that there's the basic economic problem is scarcity. So the system that is trying to put things together in terms of allocation of resources, it's an economy. So within any economic system, there are several participants. We have the individuals, businesses, governments, and non-government organizations, the NGOs. There are also various levels and types of the economy. The national economies can be free market or command economies. So the basic economic problem has to be solved by an economy. So that's the system. So this system could consist individuals, firms, governments, NGOs, and the rest. And we have also various type of economic system. We have the market system, which is a free market, and the command economies, which is the planned system. Then we have the combined economy, which is the mixed economy, which combines both the free market and the planned system. So we're going to start with the free market. A free market economy tries to solve the economic problem with little government involvement. Instead, the decision of consumers and producers decide how scarce resources are allocated. In the free market economy, there are no grants, bailouts, subsidies, or social welfare. We call it a free market because it involves the price mechanism for demand and supply. So individual consumers and firms are the ones that allocate resources. There's nothing like government grants, there's nothing like bailouts, there's nothing like subsidies or social welfare. So resources allocation are done through the individuals and firms. That is why it's a free market. There's little or no government involvement. That's what a free market economy is. Then we have the command economies. For command economies, it occurs where the state makes the vast majority of decisions on how resources are allocated. For the command economy, resource allocation, that is what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce to, is decided by the government, mostly the government. That is why we call it a planned or command economies. For the free market, it involves little or no government involvement, and what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce to, is determined by the price mechanism, which is demand and supply. So while these economies are different, they all try to answer the three fundamental questions. So yeah, they are different because a planned system is different from a free market. A free market involvement, a free market allocation of resources is done through the involvement of consumers and firms. But a planned system, it is done through the state. So they have difference, they are not the same. As a result of that, we cannot say they do the same thing. But either ways, they solve the basic economic question, the fundamental basic economic questions, which are what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce to. So both the planned system and the market system are there to solve the basic economic questions, which brings about scarcity. So it's all about, it evolves around allocation of resources. So we have the pure command economy, we have the mixed economy, and the pure market economy. So what is to be produced? For example, an economy can decide. So for what is to be produced, for example, an economy can decide what proportion of output is to be spent on infrastructure or defense. What is to be produced? That's the type of output that needs to be produced and what proportion of resources needs to be allocated to produce this output. How is produce to be organized? For example, do we use unskilled labor or robots? When we talk about how to produce, we're talking about the process through which what is to be produced has to be produced. Are we using are we using individuals? Are we using skilled laborers? Are we using technology? Are we going to get it from China? Are we going to get it from Russia? Are we going to get it from America? What is to be produced? This simply means the process through which the production has to take place. Therefore, whom is production to take place? For example, how much of the output goes to workers or retirees? So for whom to produce to are the beneficiary of what has to be produced. So we have what is to be produced as the type of resources that has to be produced, the type of output that has to be produced, and the proportion that has to be allocated to that output. Then how is production has to be organized? This simply means the process through which this production has to take place. Therefore, who is production to take place? We're simply talking about who are the beneficiaries of this production. So that is economy. And like I said earlier, there's economy, which is a system that is trying to solve the basic economic problem. And we have the economic participants, which are individuals, government, firms, non-government organizations. We have the economic system itself, which are either the planned system or the command system or the combined, which is the mixed economy. We call it a free market because it involves firms, which are firms and consumers, which is a price mechanism of demand and supply. Then we have the command system, which involves state allocation of resources, which means what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce to, is determined by the state or the government. So we'll move on. So we're going to start with the economic participants. So we continue with what an economy is. Now we're going to economic participants. There are four main economic participants in the market economy. An economy needs individuals, businesses, the government, and the NGOs to interact successfully to produce, consume, and distribute economic resources. So we're going to start with individuals. An individual contributes by buying goods from a business, offering their labor in exchange for a wage from a business, paying tax on their income and consumption to the government, and donating time and money to an NGO. So one of the economic participants is individuals. And when we talk about individuals, we're talking about you and I. We contribute to buying goods and services from businesses. And how are we going to be able to pay for these goods and services that we buy from businesses? We pay through making ourselves available for job by offering our service to them in return for wages or salary. And that is what we use in making our payments. That is what we use in paying for goods or services. And also we use in paying our taxes. And also sometimes we contribute towards the NGOs. That is individual and how they participate in an economy. Then the next one is a business. A business utilizes the four factors of production to process goods that individuals want, employ local people, pays tax to the government on wages, income tax, profit corporation tax, and goods, VAT, and donates time and money to an NGO. So firms or businesses' involvement in an economy is through the use of the factors of production, which are land, labor, capital, and enterprise. You know what factors of production are the resources that helps in the production of goods and services that are called factors of production. So businesses use these factors of production, which they in turn sell to consumers, which in exchange for money. As a result of that, they are going to be able to pay their workers. They are going to be able to pay their workers, which also means that they're going to be able to pay income tax. They're going to be able to pay corporation tax from their profit. And sometimes they also pay value-added tax on the goods they purchase. And also sometimes they also donate to the NGOs. That is business participation in an economy. Then the government. A government provides facilities to individuals, businesses, and NGOs that nobody would pay for on their own. Call these public goods, including road, recycling facilities, and Gauda, Silchana. In addition, the government manages taxes in order to provide pensions for retired people, child benefit for parents, job seekers allowance for the unemployed, and grant aid for NGOs. So government participation comes through taxes being paid by individuals and firms. And as a result of that, government use that in facilitating infrastructure, social welfare, such as pensions, unemployment benefits, building of roads. That is government participation in an economy. And for the NGOs, an NGO, for example, example given, Focus Ireland, provides a social benefit service that is unprofitable. Hence, a business cannot sustainably fulfill it, or that the government does not put the resources into. It builds the skills of its volunteers and makes life better for individual businesses and government. For the non-government organizations, what they provide is social benefits to the people, to the vulnerable ones, and they ensure that those that are involved, get better in terms of what they do. And this is their way of participating in an economy. So it is important to understand what motivates each one of these economic participants. Furthermore, they can face a conflict when deciding how to allocate their resources. So the point about these economic participants are they have different objectives, and as a result of that, there might be conflicts of objective in terms of allocating resources or in terms of making decisions. So it is important for us to understand the motive behind each economic participant. So these are economic participants. We have the individuals, we have businesses, we have governments and non-government organizations. For individuals, they participate in the economy by purchasing goods and services from businesses. And in exchange for what? For money or revenue. And how do they get this money? They offer services to businesses, which in return are being paid for. Then for businesses, they use the factors of production, which they use in the production of goods and services. They sell goods and services, they pay taxes through profit, they pay profit taxes, they pay value-added taxes, they pay income taxes for their workers. For government, they provide facility, they provide infrastructure, they provide public goods. This is their own economic participation. And the NGOs, they provide social benefits, which are non-profitable. So that takes us to the next slide. Consumers. Consumers are assumed to want to maximize their own utility or satisfaction. They don't have enough income to be able to buy all the goods and services that they would like, the problem of scarcity. Instead, they allocate their income to achieve maximum utility. To do this, they will think about the utility to be gained from consuming an extra unit of production with its opportunity cost. For example, if I have an extra €1, should I spend it on a can of cola or orange? Should I upgrade my car or go on a cruise? Economists maintain that people make decisions based on the next event or at the margin. This means that consumers don't look at their overall spending every time. They want to spend an extra. They just consider the alternative of that decision to spend €1 and what it will give them the highest amount of utility. So for consumers, every now and then they want to maximize their utility or satisfaction. And what is utility? The amount of satisfaction that can be derived from the consumption of any commodity. So they want to maximize their utility. They want to spend extra. So for them to spend extra, the only thing they need to put into consideration is the highest amount of utility that will be attained spending that extra. So what is the conflict? Consumers can also act as workers and are assumed to want to maximize their income while having as much free time as they need or want. They face conflict regarding how to spend their money too. They might ask, should I buy an expensive notebook from an NGO to help fund a developmental project in Africa, or a less expensive one in my local stationery shop? There's also conflict on the side of consumers, because consumers can also act as workers. And because they act as workers, they might want to maximize their income. At the same time, they want to have more time for themselves. But having more time for yourself might simply means that you don't have large amount of income. So there's always going to be an opportunity cost. And that simply means there's conflict when it comes to consumers. For businesses, the objective of business can often be mixed. In the US and Western Europe, it is usually thought that businesses will try to maximize profits. This is because companies are owned by individuals who want to earn the best possible return on their investment, which is profit. In other economies, for example, given Japan, it is thought that owners are just one stakeholder group of people who have an interest in the business. Workers and the local community should also have a say in how the company is run. Profit might be only one of many objectives for the firms. Firms may also want to maximize sales. This in turn would lead to increased market share or monopoly power, which could mean increased price due to lack of competition. On the other hand, bigger firms could often be more stable and considered to be more prestigious. For businesses, in most countries, businesses' objectives are to maximize profits. Maybe in some countries like Japan, has been said here, owners see themselves as a stakeholder, which simply means they also give space for other stakeholders like workers, the local community, to have a say in the running of the business. So profit might only be one of their own objectives, which means they might think about social responsibility. But firms may also want to maximize sales, and if they want to maximize sales, it simply means they want to increase their market share. And in the course of trying to increase their market share, it might lead to what we call monopoly power. Then, what is the conflict regarding firms or businesses? Some firms may want to build a triple bottom line. They want to improve profit, people, and planet at the same time. An entrepreneur might ask, should I offer my staff some paid overtime, the business, which gives them more wages and the company more productivity? Or should I offer them the opportunity to take a day off to work at an NGO? So there's always going to be a conflict also for businesses when they have to make decisions regarding their workers. Maybe they have to, for every decision they make, there's always going to be an opportunity cost. And the opportunity cost is the conflict regarding their decision. Then we have, similarly, a manager may have short-term and long-term conflicts. He or she may ask, should I increase my staff wages today or hold on to the money to be a buffer in preventing job losses in case they face economic difficulty in the future? So managers are faced with similar problems. Sometimes they might think about increasing wages for their subordinates, but at the same time, they might think about future events that might be external factor, which may need money. As a result of that, they want to reserve certain amount of money to help them during the economic decline. As a result of that, they make a decision, and which is a conflict. Then for government decisions also have conflict, but let's look at government decisions first. Governments have generally been assumed to want to maximize the welfare, the well-being of an individual or a group of its citizens. This will probably include, but not be limited to, the following: economic growth, increasing the amount of goods and services that a country produces each year; full employment, everybody who is capable of working has a job; low inflation, keeping price increase below 2%. These are all government macroeconomic objectives. But what are the conflicts about it? Competing groups often champion their cause and influence government policy through lobbying. For example, environmentalists, their concerns versus building a motorway. Indeed, governments run by individuals, dictatorship, may act in their own monetary self-interest and not maximize the welfare of their citizens. Likewise, local politicians may promote the interests of their constituents, even if this does not increase the overall welfare of the country. For the country, it may well happen that policies pursued to achieve one objective may make it difficult to pursue others. For example, spending more money to create employment will lead to inflation. So these macroeconomic objectives also come with conflicts. Conflict in respect to governments finding their own interest in whatever policies they come up with. Government coming up with decisions that are in favor of their political interest instead of the society. And they might be faced with other issues regarding, like, environmentalists wanting to make sure that the environment stays green. But government might want to reduce the green space to generate more revenue. So these are conflicts on government situation or government decisions. Then we have the non-government organizations, the NGOs. A non-government organization is any non-profit voluntary citizen groups that is organized on the local, national, or international level. They are non-profit organizations. So their aim is to ensure that the well-being of people, vulnerable ones, are taken care of. These organizations are separate from the government and non-commercial. There is a wide range of NGOs, from local community groups to charities and lobby groups. NGOs worldwide perform a wide range of services aimed at people's well-being and social welfare. They may have different structures, activities, and policies, but all NGOs are motivated by and committed to their cause and work to achieve their respective goals. NGO activities include, but are not limited to environmental, social, advocacy, and human rights works. They can also work to promote social and political change on the broad scale or very local. NGOs play a critical part in developing society and improving communities. So for NGOs, they are non-profit organizations, and their aim is to ensure that the well-being of individuals, the vulnerable ones, are taken care of, and they want to ensure that they can influence the well-being of people. They can influence situations that will make an economy to become a better or improve communities. This is what the NGOs does. So in the next class, we're going to talk about then the conflict of, as soon as we finish the conflict, then in the next class, we're going to round it up, and in the next class, we're going to talk about specialization and division of labor. So what are the conflicts when it comes to NGOs? An NGO wants to do good in the world, but who needs its time, effort, and attention the most? Local people are less developed countries. Those who are sick, disabled, or facing mental health issues. An NGO also faces conflict around how to spend its money. Should it pay volunteers in order to attract more people into the organization? But then it will need to find more volunteers to help fundraise. Should it use the money it has only for the people it serves? But then it may not have enough people to use what the money buys in the best way. So the NGO is also faced with conflict. Conflict in respect to the decision they make. Should they spend so much on their voluntary workers to attract more of the voluntary workers? And if they have to do that, it simply means there might not be enough money to carry out their objective. And if they spend less on workers, it means they won't be able to attract volunteer workers, which simply means they might not be able to use the money to buy what is best in the best way. So there's always going to be conflict in decision making. And why is there conflict in decision making? There's conflict in decision making because of opportunity cost. So we'll stop for today here, which is the topic we really talked about today is economic participants and what an economy is. In the next class, we're going to talk about division of labor and specialization. Thank you.